We're here with the one and only Larry Gibson, author of Young Thurgood, and great book here. What is the relevance to today? New president, re-elected,
Well,
2012.
it is always important to know from whence we came and to know one's history and to see that some of the struggles that we're having now have been around for a while. I mean, the one of Thurgood Marshall's principal sort of 5 priorities he dealt with here and then later dealt with protecting the franchise. And so this book shows how the genesis of that struggle with respect to the protecting the right to vote, and of course we recently have had a resurgence of battles, of challenges to the right to vote. Likewise, with respect to educational opportunity, this gives people, I think, a historical perspective, because the first lawsuit, or the first step on the road to Brown, was here in Maryland. The University of Maryland School of Law case was the first time that any judge in the nation ordered the desegregation of educational facility. That was right here in 1935 in Maryland, and Thurgood Marshall and Charles Hamilton Houston handled that case.
You being a lawyer, law professor, very familiar with the history of Baltimore, where are we today? Would Thurgood Marshall be pleased?
Yes, I think Thurgood Marshall would be pleased, because he was an optimist and he focused on progress, and I think there's been quite substantial progress. Thurgood Marshall never really sort of focused on, well, there is this final objective, a goal that we're going to reach. He understood that it was a process, and the issue is, are you better off than you were before? And I think that he would think that just the elimination of legal segregation and discrimination is important, but he'd also realized that the battle is not over. But I also think that Thurgood Marshall would think that it'll never be over.
Over-incarceration, a top issue in Black America. 39% of America's prisons are Black males. You think Thurgood Marshall would be happy about that?
Part of what I discuss in this book is his early involvement in the criminal justice system. And I trace some of his early cases. He became, for example, a lifelong opponent of the death penalty.
And
in
as
the
you
book,
are.
I discuss, as I am. And the
Why?
book discusses his first capital punishment case, in which his client was executed. Then he handled 5 more that he succeeded in getting his clients acquitted. I have all my life been against killing prisoners, and that's what capital punishment is. It's killing a person who, at the time that they are being killed, is not a threat, and who is unarmed and no immediate threat to one. I think that that's reprehensible. I've been against it all of my life.
What have you learned as a result of doing this book, this project, Young Thurgood?
I think the reader will see how the person of Thurgood Marshall is just a fascinating individual. There have been earlier books by Thurgood Marshall. There have been 5 full-length biographies, but those focus mainly on what Thurgood Marshall did. This book is a book about what Thurgood Marshall was like and how he got to be that person, what influences shaped him, his mentors. And I discuss and bring out in the book some mentors, in addition to the one we know about, which is Charles Hamilton Houston. And I show in the book that there were other real important mentors, some lawyers, some are not lawyers. There's a man discussed in the book named Goff McDaniels, who was Thurgood Marshall's history teacher and debate coach from the 9th grade and throughout the early part of his career, who was quite a brilliant man, graduated first from his class at Brown University, and was quite an orator and a writer. So his role in the city and in shaping Thurgood Marshall and a lot of other people I discussed.
Okay, this book solidifies you as the black legal expert in Maryland now, right?
Well, I think the book is a
From
contribution.
from a historical perspective,
And,
I mean, you make history with this book, huh?
well, I hope people will read it. I'm confident that people will learn a lot about Baltimore, about the state of Maryland, and about the history of this civil rights struggle in the country, and will develop a greater understanding and appreciation of this giant, Thurgood.
And what about today's law student, the young black law student?
I hope that law students will read it, but I've tried to write it so that people with no legal training will enjoy it.
I mean, do our law students understand the struggle?
Well, I think that we all can learn more about our history, and this is hopefully something that will be beneficial, not just to law students. I mean, for the legal scholar, there are extensive footnotes with the great detail. But I've tried to write a book that has that's accessible to the average person. There are 188 images here. If one were to get this book and just look at the pictures and read the captions, you'd get a fair amount of information.
So therefore, this should be required reading for Baltimore City Public School students.
That would be fine with me. As the author of the book, yes. I think that's a very good idea that this be required reading for Baltimore and Maryland students.
And you know I'm an entrepreneur too. How can people get this book website?
It's available on many websites, bondsandnobles.com.
But you have one specifically, right?
Well, no, bondsandnobles.com and amazon.com. The book is discounted far less than it'll cost in a bookstore. And they can get it that way.
And a week full of activities.
They can go to a bookstore. There is my signing event at the Enoch Pratt Library on the night of December the 13th. That's a Thursday. The next night, which is a Friday night, I will be signing books at Union Baptist Church in Thurgood Marshall's neighborhood. And there'll probably be other signing events, and it'll be my pleasure to sign many thousands of them.
Good deal. The one and only Professor Larry Gibson. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.